questions in the courtroom? Pardon me, please.
The M is the sex, the A is the race, and then the 601 is going to be the subject's height. The 170 is going to be the subject's weight. And then the BRO is the eye color, and then the BLK is the hair color.
Okay, and you were about to describe the FBI number, what is that?
Oh, the FBI number appears in that, well, it's not on that card yet. That would be, the FBI number would be in this box right here. It had not yet been assigned because prints had just been submitted, but the state control number is what's in the box to the left of the date of birth.
And how is the state control number that correlate with the defendant listed?
It's an identifying number assigned by the TBI, and then the number that's not yet been generated is the FBI. Each agency gives an identifying number to each record.
Predominantly what we use is basic fingerprint powder. So you'll see this here on the left. I'm sure you've seen on TV shows, CSI and all the cool shows, this basic fingerprint powder. And all that doing is adhering to the sweat and the excrement stuff that's spotted your skin on that surface. However, we also could do a super glue fuming, which really on plastic surfaces, other stuff is more suitable for those because it really fixates the print in, so you can use that. However, there's another process that I forgot to put up there is if it's so these are all for non-porous surfaces. If you pour water on this table here, your fingerprint residue or the water on the surface would stay on top of that surface. Same thing with your fingerprint residue. If I touch this, the residue from my skin will stay on that surface. So we use these basic two.
And were any of those latent prints of value, high enough quality to be examined for comparison purposes?
Only one set.
And what set were those?
That was lift A.
Where was lift A on the bags?
The exterior of the third bag.
Okay. And can you describe at this point in any detail the quality of those latent prints that you just described as lift A on the third bag?
So the quality of these images, for the latent in that case, I would consider medium low to medium high quality.
What are those photos of?
These are photographs of the image of the latents that are of value for comparison.
From garbage bag number 3.
From garbage bag number 3, correct.
That you were able to compare to known impressions?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that these be collected exhibit 213.
And then down here you see the two fingerprint impressions that were laid down simultaneously, which means at the same time. This has been super glue fumed, so your ridges you're seeing up here on the screen, these white, that's the actual friction-rich skin. And the black is actually the furrow which was in between the fingerprints.
Right. I'm sorry, was there more you wanted to talk about?
Well, you also see some voids. I'm going to explain what those voids are. That's the substrate that it's on. The bag creates voids. And there's also pockets. It's like if you get anything plastic that's crumpled up, it'll create voids in the bag.
That's what the black marks are that have no white in them?
Correct.
Okay. Second page, actually, let me go. I'm sorry, this print cards, were these known impressions what you used for comparison?
That's correct.
Okay. So explain that to the jury. When we now, they now see the known impressions in the same set of slides as they see the latents. So explain that comparison process.
So then we would go back to our office. We would put the latent impression on the screen and the known impression. We take those cluster, those level 2, level 3 details I was telling you about, the bifurcation, the ringing dots. I would look for that in first in the latent impression. Then I would look for that in a similar location in a known impression. So then you would compare all the ridge events, all those ridges you saw on the screen previously on that latent image, you compare it to all the ridges in the known impression. This is a live scan image of those 10 print cards you saw, the ones that the Hamilton County Sheriff also took. So this is the left ring and left middle finger from that 10 print card on the screen of Jason Chen's.
Tell the jury what we're seeing here.
So these are the known images of Jason Chen's left ring and left middle finger, and that's the corresponding ridge events that match the previous slide of the latent impression. So you have, once again, you have 20 ridge events. That's not all 20 that match, but this is 20 that mark on the chart.
Also, near the Walmart, can you explain to the jury why this looks different, why the red dots are smaller?
Well, just at that time and period, there wasn't anything from the face phone, but what's even better is the tiny dots are much more accurate. So they know you're on these arcs by the time it takes the signal to travel, and where the arcs intersect is basically where they estimate you to be. And when you start getting these small, it's usually pretty accurate. Like we saw, the big circle covered all the Walmart and some surrounding stores. Now we're down to parking lot.
When the arcs intersect, you said that is when we can have a better idea of exactly where the
Yes.
parties are.
Yes, it's not always 100% accurate, but the one thing to remember, you have to be in the coverage of that antenna on that tower, so you're not going to be way on the other side of town. Or it might put you in the wrong parking lot, but it's not going to put you way off.
But the lines you would testify are arcs from the towers?
Yes, it's the range, so that's how they get this. And on the record, you'll see like 0.68 miles. It's usually plus or minus a 10. And that's how long it took the signal to travel from that tower at the speed of light. They measure it that fast. It's really the blink of an eye, but it works.
Will we continue to see the arcs throughout your testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so again, at 10:47, you have documented at Cell Hawk, both of their phones are at or near the Walmart, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so let's keep going chronologically. Do you recall where the next location in Hamilton County Mr. Chen's phone travels to?
I believe he went up towards Sutton.
Do you know, sir, how many minutes it would take for a vehicle to drive from Walmart to Suck Creek Road?
Just 5 minutes. This is probably 5 minutes of information there. I'm putting the time like at the first of it, but he may stay, if he stays there a few minutes, there'll be more circles.
Okay, and then, reviewing evidence in this case, were you able to locate any records that indicate that Mr. Chen was at the Walgreens at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
The
video.
state, on the screen, it states exhibit 20. What time in Eastern Standard Time is that military time?
1342 be 142 Chattanooga time.
So the Cell Hawk records that you've shown to the jury of Mr. Chen being at the Walgreens at 1:41 are supported by video evidence.
Yes.
At 4:03 p.m., based on your review of the T-Mobile and the Verizon records, Mr. Chen texts Jasmine, "Hey, are we still good for dinner?"
That's correct.
Do Mr. Chen's phone records corroborate him leaving Tremont at almost exactly this time?
They do.
Can you describe for the jury what we see here on the screen?
So that is the start down in here around 110 and then traveling. And then up 27 highways, the most direct route, and by the timing, I believe that's what he took. So that's basically him leaving out and getting up on the highway.
Does Highway 27, can Highway 27 lead you to Suck Creek Road?
Yes, ma'am, it can.
Is that the direction in which Mr. Chen's cell phone travels?
I believe so. By the timing, it would almost have to be.
Does Mr. Chen's phone arrive at the Suck Creek area around 13 minutes later?
It does.
Can you please, again, describe what we're seeing for the jury and show the jury where Suck Creek Road is?
So this is that highway that we just saw a little lower down here, and then you get off, and these again are going to be close. A lot of factors there, but the dots are traveling down Suck Creek Road towards the body location.
How accurate are the dots in this
Oh,
photograph?
the size of them, I don't remember the meters, but it's pretty small. Those are pretty good, but we know he's not driving through the middle of the Komatsu plant. So again, this is not GPS, but the average of all of it is pretty accurate. If you're moving fast, it's usually not as accurate as if you're sitting for problem here is there's not as many towers, and the more towers that are involved in the map, the better. And when you get in that canyon, you're kind of on your own with one or two. But the general travel direction is good.
Let's move forward to 2 minutes later. 6:15 on 11:23. Now describe for the jury why this looks a little bit different.
So this is just zoomed, it's zoomed in more. These range rings that are on further out are where I was talking about it bouncing off of the vertical cliffs, and it jumps back and forth. But if you average all that together, it puts you pretty close.
And you testified about how long it would take to get from Tremont to certain locations, but did you actually look at anything on Google Maps to help the jury understand the distance between certain locations?
I did. I just ran a, address from travel trip from point A to point B and let Google tell me, because they know the speeds and average travel times.
Is this a screenshot from the Google Maps?
It is.
And it shows that it takes how long to get from Tremont to Suffolk?
13 minutes.
Does that corroborate the location data that you retrieved from Cellhawk?
It does.
What does that represent?
That's the estimated location of Jasminepace's cell phone by Verizon, and it's pretty much centered on the Walmart, and it's 641.
Is this location the last location for several days that you see Ms. Pace's phone?
The location is, but not the time.
So, tell her which
I see it again here in a minute, but it's
one. Okay,
it's never seen anywhere else after.
okay, is this what you were talking about?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
649. Same location.
A few minutes later, it's detected again near the Walmart.
Yes,
And then does it go dark?
it does.
One second, Judge. Based on Ms. Pace's cell phone records, the Verizon records, were you also able to corroborate that her phone went dark around this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that appear to be a white SUV?
Yes, ma'am.
At this point in time, is Mr. Chen's cell phone location data showing that he is in or around 900 Mountain Creek Road?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And then have you also seen the next part of this video that shows what looks like or has been testified to a Prius pulling into this parking lot?
Yes, ma'am.
What time does that Prius pull into the parking lot?
It's 8:49.
Mr. Hamilton, I'm going to approach you. Two documents. Can you look at those documents? Do you recognize those?
I do.
What are these documents?
Those are extracted from Mr. Chen's cell phone by Celebrate, and they're pieces of an app. It's a leaked app. And
Okay,
there's
so-
some remnants of messaging that it's
So these were extracted in the cell phone download, correct?
correct from Mr. Chen's cell phone.
That's why you said Cellbrite, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and when you say from an app, what does that mean?
So I'm sure most of us familiar with smartphones, you can install apps, and even if you uninstall that app, most of them leave pieces around your phone where they store stuff. And in this particular case, there's pieces of an app for Lyft to get a car ride. And it left some telltale messages, and that's what the,
Your Honor, that's we did that in the Now, you just testified to
The reason we know it's in this database tells us where it's stored at. It's telling us it was using data on the network. But what's interesting is it's Zimride. So I learned something in this case. That was a computer nerd, and he wanted to go see his girlfriend in college in California. He couldn't afford it, so he created an app to get people to pick him up and take him to see his girl. And his name was Zimmer. He started that in 2012, and so it was called Zimride for a year, and then they changed the name to Lyft. But that's a computer programmer, and that's where Zimride came from. So
Okay.
it's still called internally because I guess that was their early software. It's still called Zimride, but it's Lyft now.
And what would the timestamp there be indicative of?
So UTC 5 is Eastern, that's Chattanooga time, and that is at 20:39, which is 8:39 for non-military folks.
And then the second page of 218 shows the same thing, except now we've got a different time on there, is that correct?
Yes, this is actually, it's a notification coming in, and it's at 20:50, which would be 8:50 PM. So what, 11 minutes later?
How do you know it's a notification coming in?
It says location feedback notification.
Okay, and where is Mr. Chen's cell phone at 8:50 PM?
It's in the parking lot of 900 Mountain Creek on the corner right beside the parking lot.
Does this map reflect that testimony?
Yes, so this is the whole apartment block, and it's showing him right there on the main street.
At this point, does Mr. Chen's phone appear to travel back to the Tremont Apartments?
It does.
How long of a trip again would that be, Mr. Hamilton?
It's 12. I
It's
think
on the
that's
screen.
12 minutes.
Are you able to tell us at what time both the gray Prius and Mr. Chen's cell phone arrived back at Tremont Street?
Yeah, it was about 12 minutes later, so.
Is there video evidence that
There is,
corroborates
yeah.
this as well?
That same Arctic camera catches it.
Exhibit 129?
Yes, ma'am, at 9:02. And we left at 8:50, so 12 minutes. And there's the Prius.
And does this video corroborate Mr. Chen's cell phone records?
It does. His records come in right at the same time. And they're stopping and putting the hazards on and letting somebody out. That you'll see them kind of run right up in here. And that's a zoom of it there.
Yeah, I think this is the video that zooms in on it. That person appeared to have a hoodie on.
They did.
And at this point in time, are Mr. Chen's phone records showing that he is back at his apartment on Tremont Street?
They are.
All right, the next question I ask you is significant. Where was Mr. Chen's cell phone from this time on 11/23 until midday on 11/25?
It was here.
It was at his apartment
Yes.
the entire time?
Yes.
Didn't go anywhere?
No.
Would you agree that that's basically a day and a half?
It is. Yes, ma'am.
Now, you testified earlier that, you testified to the jury what the difference between a SIM card and a cell phone is,
Yes.
correct? Are you aware in this case that Ms. Pace's SIM card was located at some point, and I apologize, this is the slide that shows Mr. Chen back at Fremont, is that correct?
It is. Yeah.
Now, are you aware that this was found in Mr. Chen's possessions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this is 167-2, State's Exhibit. Have you seen this photo before?
I have.
Have you also seen the forensic report that was in
Yes,
front of
ma'am.
this SIM card?
I have.
Now you're seeing exhibit 201 next to exhibit 167-2.
Correct.
The SIM card report shows that, well, what does the SIM card report show?
So on this slide, what I'm showing is, it's called ICCID, and it's, you can read it, they're integrated circuit card identifier. It's, all these are, they're like serial numbers. That's what's printed on your, on the outside. That's an ICCID. Electronically, this is extracted by Celebrite so that nobody types in the internet. That number matches that number, so that tells me this report is on the device that they physically took a picture of. There's only one of these in the world with that number because your phone would get mixed up with somebody, so they can't have any duplicates. So that tells me this report's valid, and it matches what they found up in Nolensville.
11/20/22, what are you doing this Wednesday, by the way? You'd agree that 11/20/2022 is 2 days before 11/22/2022?
Yes, that's correct.
And what day of the week was 11/22/2023?
It was a Tuesday.
11/23 was a Wednesday?
Correct.
Okay. He says, what are you doing this Wednesday, by the way? She says, nice, that one looked good too, it sounds like you. He says, great, let's get a light workout in and then we'll go out for dinner and drinks. She says, okay, that sounds nice, like a real date. He says, perfect, anyways, I have to go to the lab and finish some work. Looking forward to Wednesday. She loved that last text. She said, have a good lab and get homework done as well as some sleep. Looking forward to Wednesday. She says, I'm glad you feel it went well. I'm sure you were not overdressed. You always look amazing. She says, I could FaceTime you right now and show you my house. And then she says, well, never mind, I'm leaving before the message is delivering. He says, on 11/21/2022, hey, don't text and drive, LOL. She loved, you can if you want, but I think I like you as my mans. He loved, you can if you want, but I think I like you as my mans. 11/22, she says, are you at the gym yet? He says, yeah, I'm just finishing up now. What's up? She loved, not really ice cream, more like a silent hug, but I just got here and see the fam talk later. Why did we not see that text, Investigator Crawford?
It's simply not there. It's been not recovered, so it's potentially deleted.
Okay, and then it says, she says, my schedule will be touch and go for the next few days, is what the doctor said. So I'll keep you as posted as I am. She says, on 11/22 at 4:38, she loved, I'll give you the biggest hug. So he said, I'll give you the biggest hug, and she loved it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then on 11/23 at 11:46 a.m., he sends the text with the matcha drink saying, good morning, slept like baby, made myself a matcha.
That's correct.
And then later in the day, which we've already seen, but now we're seeing it in a different version that's been made an exhibit. Hey, are we still good for dinner tonight? Is that right?
That's correct.
And then at some point, randomly on 11/29, he removed a question mark from a previous text that appears to be the text from 2022. Are
Correct.
these their last known communications with one another?
Yes.
Did you see anything about an argument?
No.
Did you see anything that indicated that he was more into her than she was to him? Or vice versa? She was more into him than he was to her?
I did not see anything indicating that she was. The only indication from the beginning is he initiates contact twice during the period of the relationship in terms of when the relationship first began, when you had the few month separation, and then began again in April. After the April time frame, it seems to be pretty consensual.
And 3 days before he murders her, he's asking her to come over to his apartment on the day he murders her.
Yes.
We just went through a lot of text messages. Have you ever been a 22-year-old girl?
No.
Me neither. Would you be the best person to decide how a 22-year-old girl thinks?
I did. I'm married and I've been with a 22-year-old girl, so I know how conversations are had, but I've never been a 22-year-old girl.
So your subjective opinion of whether someone thought they was more into the relationship than the other might be different than someone else's subjective opinion.
I believe in the matter of this case, the only person that would know what she was thinking would be the victim herself.
But anyone, like this jury, could go and read those text messages and then decide for themselves whether what you said in your direct examination is right, or what I said in my opening is right, right?
That's correct.
And they can do that for themselves.
That's correct.
You said, so we saw a lot of text messages where you saw liking or loving, and you don't see that message previously.
That's correct.